Hey, good morning. Welcome in. Welcome back, everybody. I know the message is getting out there a little bit delayed this morning, but I had a busy weekend. But we are going to break down the astrology for today, and my focus is on how this energy could affect the Divine Feminine Collective as a whole and individually. My intention moving forward on the channel is always going to be about growth and healing for those on the twin flame awakening path. If messages come through connected to the divine masculine, that is okay. But my intentions moving forward will always to be that guide for the divine feminine collective. And so we have some pretty significant transits today. We do have the 7-7 portal energy along with these significant transits, and I'm going to break it down because today Uranus moves into Gemini, and this is big. This is huge because Uranus changes signs only about every 7 years. And this is definitely connected to the twins because it is Gemini energy. And so this is the last of the big three of the outer planets to change signs. Pluto shifted last year into Aquarius. It retrograded back into Capricorn, and now it is fully entered into Aquarius. Neptune entered into Aries. It's going to be going retrograde, or it is retrograde at the moment, pardon me. And it's going to dip back into Pisces, and now Uranus is entering into Gemini, and it is going to go retrograde later this year and also dip back into Taurus. And so massive energy shift from that yin energy of Taurus when Uranus was in Taurus to this yang energy, the air energy of Uranus in Gemini. And so this transformational energy, I do feel, is unprecedented, and it is going to impact us all on so many levels: mental, emotional, social, and technologically. And so with this eventual retrograde back into Taurus later this year, we're going to have to take one last look back at the past before fully committing to this new age, this new era. And so Gemini is the sign of duality. It's the sign of awareness. It's the sign of information. It's the sign of divine knowledge. It is connected to Mercury, God's messenger. And it is believed that the age of Gemini did begin when Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge. And when we eat from that tree of knowledge, it does signify awareness. It signifies reflection and understanding. And this is marked by the birth of our individual human consciousness. And so right now, this very foundation of our human existence is rooted in this Geminian awareness. And so in addition to this major transformation of energies, we have 3 other transits that are supporting this shift today, creating an intensity and a deeper undertone, especially with Mercury in Leo in a square to Lilith in Scorpio. We have Venus in Gemini in a trine to Pluto in Aquarius at exactly 3 degrees. This is Empress energy, loud. And then we have Mars that recently ingressed into Virgo in a sextile to Lilith in Scorpio at 11 degrees 22. Master energy coming through. And so we are in a sacred, highly activating turning point today on the 7-7 portal for consciousness, for self-expression, and for divine union embodiment. So let's break this down, because Uranus's shift into Gemini, this is like a once in a decade activation. And this is awakening the mind, right? This is awakening the rewiring of our communication pathways, our communication patterns. And it's going to bring an unexpected quantum shift connected to downloads, okay? And so downloads are the heart of the divine feminine journey. When we shift from that Taurus energy into Gemini, we're kind of in the elemental energy of air. We're going from that earthly bound yin energy to the airborne energy of yang, of taking action. And so we're going from this deeply rooted presence as the divine feminine to this light speed consciousness. And so this shift is here to awaken the divine feminine mind, okay? After years of focusing on embodiment, healing the body, and grounding in self-worth, Now comes the era for the divine feminine connected to liberated expression, multidimensional communication, sacred communication, and reclaiming our voice as a truth bearer, truth seeker, and truth speaker. And because Gemini directly activates the twin flame archetype, this is not just about external union. This is about a sacred rebalancing of the inner masculine and the inner feminine. And this is connected to the mind, okay? And so this is all about inner polarity being recalibrated so we can think, speak, and create from a place of divine clarity rather than that karmic distortion. And so as you can see up on the screen, we do have the exact moment where Uranus shifted into Gemini. Now, this happened earlier this morning. It is definitely in there right now, but as you can see, it did take place in the 12th house of Aries at 29 degrees 10. Major completion energy. 29 is the anaretic degree. And we do have the ascendant sitting in Gemini at 13 degrees 44. This is the death. This is the rebirth of that suppression, that soul suppression, that inertia. Okay. And so this also is an energy, I feel, ruling our nervous system. So there's going to be surges in mental downloads. There's going to be a lot of flashes of insight. And there could even be like temporary overstimulation in these energies at that very potent 0 degree mark. And so we're being rewired for the next chapter of our mission, of our journey. And we have 3 sacred transits. I want to call it the sacred trinity of supporting transits at play behind the scenes. And so with Mercury in Leo and a square to Lilith in Scorpio, this is fixed energy. Mercury is the ruler of Gemini, and in expressive Leo, it is bold. And it's going to be in a clashing energy with Lilith and Scorpio, the raw, feminine, primal, repressed energies of the feminine, okay? And so this square aspect is asking the divine feminine to speak from the womb chakra, not from the wounding of the womb chakra. And so there's an old story here I think the divine feminine really needs to look at. Where have you kept yourself silent? What needs to be cleared rather than repeated, okay? And so there's power in truth telling, right? There's a power in telling the truth. And when we tell the truth, it does have to come from an embodied light state, okay? Not from the echoes of past trauma, because then it's going to be a little bit distorted. And so allow this transit to help you rewrite and rewire the narrative connected to pride and connected to power, okay? Venus in Gemini, trine Pluto in Aquarius at exactly 3 degrees. This is the merger energy, right? This is the rebirth. This is the portal that we walk through to rebirth and amplify this transformation through that divine feminine voice, through our intellect. And this is rebirthing relationships as a whole, right? And so Venus in Gemini speaks duality in truth, right? I'm a Venus in Gemini, and so the Pluto energy is demanding that depth and that integrity. And so this is a beautiful portal opening for healing any distorted love patterns, okay? This is loud. And so this is through our conscious dialogue. This is through journaling. I've been doing a lot of writing, a lot of journaling recently, and we have to reclaim that curiosity, right? And so I do feel the divine feminine is being invited to merge. We're being invited to merge our heart and our mind in a way that's going to break free from any karmic codependencies so we can activate that divine union from within. And so if you have felt unseen, now is the time to hold your words with that magnetic power and to use your words wisely. With Mars recently ingressing into Virgo and now in a sextile exact to Lilith and Scorpio today, this is a very supporting aspect. Sextiles support grounded momentum, taking action into this shadow healing, right? Because it is touching Lilith. And so Mars in Virgo is asking to bring order to the chaos that Lilith, I feel the shadow energy is going to reveal. And so this is like the divine masculine in service to the divine feminine's sacred wildness, okay? And so there's an integration here with our ability to act on our healing path. And so when we allow our actions to be made into rituals every day, then we can move through these shadowy projections, and we can ground them in with precision and intention. And so we do have to reframe this sacred rage, which I feel boiled to the surface when Venus was conjunct Uranus last week, both in Taurus at that 29 degrees. And so we have to remember destruction equals reclamation, and the old has to be destroyed and burned away before we can rebuild something solid. And so this is like opening up the book of knowledge, the book of Gemini, I want to say, where we start to unfold this new chapter of embodiment and sacred speech and using technology to our advantage. There's a lot of celestial twin energy when tapping in for me. And so we're not who we were even yesterday, let alone a year ago or 5 years ago, or I don't know about you, but I've been on the journey since 2018. And so not even from 7 years ago. So we're closing out a major 7-year cycle. And so our presence, our grounded presence with this truth embodiment is what serves as being that lighthouse and that guide for others, right? And Uranus and Gemini is going to catalyze this reconnection to our soul truth is what I'm feeling. And so there could possibly be a soul mirror catalyst 1122 on the timer to show you where you are still misaligned. And so we can use this energy today to journal, to speak out loud about our soul's truth. We can use this energy to practice grounding in our nervous system, and we do this through meditation and breath work and setting those intentions about communication, especially receiving communication from your higher self and reclaiming any parts of you that was shamed for possibly knowing too much or feeling too deeply. I know a lot of us get shamed for the depths and the intensity of our feelings, and that is a divine feminine quality that a lot of people don't quite understand. So let's go a little bit deeper. Let's see what other messages need to come through with the Oracle and the Tarot cards. Before jumping in with the cards, I do want to quickly mention that I do have a free guide to the basics of your birth chart. If you are curious about learning more about yourself and your mission and your birth chart, comment down below free guide. I will send you the link to download the free basics to your birth chart. And I also do have a 22-page twin flame ebook if you are curious about the stages and the phases of the journey. If you are new to the channel, welcome. Comment down below twin flame book and I will send you the link to download that twin flame book, because this is not just a romantic connection. This is a higher soul activation and a soul mission. So let's get into it with the cards and let's see what they have in store for us today. We have another beautifully and deeply aligned spread today. So let's break it down, because the first card out today is the Queen of Light Oracle card, and it does speak of illumination, enlightenment, and celebration. And so I do feel there is an echoing energy here of awakening of that divine intelligence that is being sparked by Uranus entering into Gemini. And then, of course, it is a number 15 card. And so this does connect with the major arcana devil card in the tarot. And so there could be a mirror of addiction, attachment, and karmic illusion here. But the Queen of Light is going to bring that illumination to what once was hidden. And so there is a Uranus shock here connected to the mental and emotional fields, and it's being brought into this higher awareness where it will become impossible to cling to these outdated patterns or old stories and identities. And so there's addictions here that do need to be addressed, whether it's to people, to thoughts, or even an addiction to pain. All of this is going to be illuminated, not to shame the divine feminine, but to liberate her from these patterns. And so there is a direct reflection here, I feel, with Mercury in that square to Lilith, where the mind is confronting the suppressed wild feminine, and these truths must be spoken. The shadows need to be named, and the inner celebration needs to be reclaimed. And so you're no longer going to be hiding in your own story, divine feminine. These shadows are going to be illuminated so you can see your truth clearly, and so you can love yourself through this unraveling today. Okay, let's talk about the second card. And we did get the Hungry Ghosts card, and it does say obsession, scarcity consciousness, and attachment on the card. And it's a 14 card, so there is an alignment with the Temperance card in the major arcana with the tarot. And so this is suggesting a deep alchemical rebalancing, right? And so obsessive energy, scarcity consciousness, these all tie into the addiction energy that came through with the first card. And so there is a karmic imprint now that the divine feminine is being asked to transmute, whether it's a scarcity mindset, codependencies, or chasing something or someone that's not available. And so when we do this, then we begin to over-identify with the past woundings. And so there is a mirror energy of the Mars sextile Lilith coming through, which is that supporting nudge to act in ways that are going to free this inner wild feminine energy, where we can learn how to balance our desires with a sense of presence. And we have to acknowledge this hunger without being consumed by it. And so the ghosts from the past are only going to haunt us if we're hungry for love, if we're hungry for presence, and we're hungry for understanding. And so this is an invitation to tend to your inner orphan and show that inner child compassion and release that grip on something that is leaving your life that was likely never meant to stay in the first place. And the Rainbow Prince was the third card out. And there is compensation here for your perseverance, okay? And there is a resonance with the Page of Wands energy, with it being a 26 card. And so there's a youthful, curious, creative energy here. There is new inspiration being sparked. There is the beginning, I want to say, of a very sacred quest. And the Rainbow Prince is bringing that message of hope. It is the reminder that after all of the storms that we go through, the blessings begin to arrive, the rainbow blessings. And so this definitely ties in, I feel, to the Venus and Gemini trine, Pluto in Aquarius transit today, where these creative downloads and these messages of heart truth are here to emerge us from the ashes like that rising phoenix. And so the reward always comes after the emotional endurance. And so the divine feminine is learning how to create from within. We're not here to chase that external validation. This is a resurrection of the divine feminine voice and self-expression. So what I want to say is keep going, keep going. The path you're walking at times will feel steep, will feel challenging, but there's always the gold at the end of the rainbow, because divine feminine, you are the bridge between these timelines. You are the storyteller of the new feminine energies that we are grounding in. And let's finish it off with the bottom of the deck, the Desert Prince. Survival, false promises, and it is a 19 card. And so there is a connection to the Sun card in the major arcana in the tarot. And there is a shadowed lesson here connected to the ego collapse. Let's face it, we've all been in survival mode at a certain point in time. We've all had to look at our own shadowy control patterns, or even addressing a false masculine template that once defined our self-worth. Okay. And so this is like the last grasping of the old age, of the old era, as Uranus leaves Taurus, that fixed earth sign, which does represent survival, comfort, and material attachment, and steps into that electric, detached realm of Gemini, the air quality. The egoic foundations are going to begin to crack. And with that is going to come the shedding of the false promises that were made from the wounded ego or a wounded place. And so you no longer need to survive love, divine feminine. You are meant to thrive in it because you are love at the core. And so there is a masculine energy here, whether it is within or without or both, that made a false promise. And this does need to be recalibrated because your soul contract is with truth, not with illusion. And so I feel there is a very unified message here today, from karmic collapse to divine communication. And so there is a portal of collapsing the false matrix. And the false matrix was built on control, lack, and addiction. And so it's like the feminine is no longer tethered to that suffering loop of the false matrix. And Uranus is initiating that new age of awareness, or that new age of Aquarius, where we free ourselves from the karmic bondage and we're being guided by the heart, right? And so there's illumination here of what is no longer true. There's confronting the karmic attachments. There's opening the heart to receive the new frequencies. And there's a breakdown out of these survival templates. And let me tell you, divine feminine, you are never alone in this. The collective feminine field is rising with you because you are the voice. You are the vessel. You are the vision of the new divine story or the new earth template. So let's go further with this 9-card tarot spread today, which is also powerfully aligned. And it kind of reads like a cosmic transmission here for the divine feminine, who is stepping through this 7-7 gateway portal with this radical new level of embodiment, clarity, and I want to say inner union. Okay, so let's break it down row by row, and we will interpret each layer as we go. So the top row I want to call the soul pathway. And so the first card out, we did get the world card. And so there is a major completion energy here. It is connected to Saturn, which I do want to mention is going to be stationing retrograde in Aries. I believe it's on Sunday. And so this is the finalization of the karmic lessons around, I want to say, identity, right? And then we see the Fool energy in the middle, which is linked to Uranus. And so we're clearing the old karmic stories around identity, self-assertion, and independence. And so this does signify mastery, the culmination of a cycle, and the preparation for something new, right? And so this Saturn and Aries energy that is about to retrograde is also part of the closure of the 7-year Uranian cycle. And so I do feel you've completed a major soul contract, a major soul lesson, and it's really time to give gratitude to the divine, because you're graduating from what I want to say is survival consciousness as you fully step into your divine sovereignty. And so there's a visionary energy coming through with the 3 of Wands. And this is like looking ahead. This is receiving the manifestation after all of the hard work. This is the divine feminine that has held on to hope for divine timing and has come into alignment. And so because it is linked to the sun in Aries, I do feel this is asking the divine feminine to boldly envision your future without that past filter lens, okay? And so keep your focus on the horizon, because something is about to arrive. I want to say your ships are about to come in, but only if you release the attachment to what you thought it would look like, right? And then the Fool. I love it. This is pure Uranus energy. This is the leap of faith. This is that 0-point energy field. This is the sacred reset. This is a cosmic yes, yes, yes. After the cycle closes, you can begin anew. And so with Uranus entering into Gemini, this will shift a lot. You're going to feel both liberated and, I want to say, a little bit distorted. And so the only thing that is required of you right now is full surrender and trust. The Fool doesn't take anything with them, right? So let go of the past baggage. You don't need to know the next step. You only need to know that you're free to take it. Take the leap of faith, okay? Middle row, we do have the mind and the masculine integration, because we did get the Queen of Swords and the King of Swords, and right smack in between them, the central focus of the reading is the Knight of Wands. So let's break this down, because this whole row, I want to say, is governing the mental plane, communication, and that balancing of the inner feminine and masculine polarities that I talked about. And so there is a conscious awareness that the divine feminine is cultivating, and there is an alchemical union that is happening within. There's clarity, there's boundaries, there's truth without attachment to emotion, which is a big thing where you have evolved divine feminine. You are no longer going to argue. You're no longer going to chase. You're no longer going to seek validation. You're just going to speak your truth, and you're going to allow what's aligned to stay and what leaves to leave. So this is the card that cuts through illusion. And this is where the divine feminine speaks from that place of wisdom, not reaction. Your clarity is that sort of liberation. And then the central card of the spread, the heart of the reading, is pulsing with this fast-paced movement. One of the fastest knights in the deck, right? It's passion, it's pursuit, it's creative ignition. It's sitting in the center, which is marking a very powerful surge of forward energy connected to soul desires. And so I think there's an activation here. And it could be sacred rage, or it could be inspired creativity. Either way, this fire is fuel for purpose and for passion. So follow the spark, not the fear, because this is the mastery of the mind. This is where logic meets integrity. So both the King and Queen of Swords are present. And this shows that inner polarity of union, where there's a matured inner dialogue, there's sacred discernment, there's mental alignment coming through. And so no longer ruled, I want to say, by ego reaction. There's divine downloads too coming here, where you're learning to observe and process and decide from a place of self-respect. And to do that, we have to be in divine neutrality, okay? And so the middle spark is saying still stay neutral, okay? Bottom row, we do have the emotional and union body. And so it's deeply emotional, because it starts with the Knight of Cups. We have the Knight of Cups, the Four of Wands, and the Three of Cups. So there is romantic, intuitive, and poetic energy here, right? Because the Knight of Cups is a messenger of emotional expression. And I do feel this is the divine masculine within and potentially without, approaching with more depth and more sincerity. So there could be an offer of love arriving. It could be very unexpected, but you need to make sure that this offer of love is going to reflect your new vibration. Do not settle for fantasy. Don't do it. Feel around for that soul truth, okay? Because there is a sacred union here. Celebration, its foundation. This is the 1111 portal code energy, the divine doorway to union, inner harmony, and outer recognition. And so there is a phase of stability following this transformation. So the twins are crossing into a new dimension of union. But we do this first from within, and then it will be mirrored outwardly. So we do have to create that sanctuary for our soul first. And traditionally, the Three of Cups can represent celebration, but I want to take a note of the image, right? We kind of see the masks, which to me indicates masks falling off. And this is linked to Mercury and Cancer. And so there is an emotional truth-telling energy connected to clarity within a social group or social community where you're seeing through the illusions. And so not everybody that celebrates with you is meant to come with you for the next chapter, which is where discernment comes into play, right? Because we do need to speak gently and we need to see clearly, right? And so that's what this is, seeing clearly, right? And so we do have to choose the sacred community over any familiar dysfunctional social groups, okay? So we'll talk about the bottom of the deck because it is kind of the shadow subconscious realm of the reading, and it always does play a significant role. And so they kind of reveal the hidden energies, the subconscious motivations and drives, and what's manifesting behind the scenes. And so we did get a Page of Pentacles. There is a new offer or a new opportunity forming. It could be a message. It could be a grounded plan. It could be a fresh foundation for your work, Divine Feminine, for abundance, for connection. And then we have the King of Cups, which is emotional maturity is anchoring in, right? So this could be you, or this could be your counterpart stepping into deeper heart sovereignty. there's this capacity to hold very complex feelings without drowning in them. And then we go right to the Nine of Cups, which is soul satisfaction. This is emotional fulfillment. This is that wish coming true, even if you can't see it yet. And the last card on the bottom of the deck that I stopped at is the card of the Lovers. So there is sacred union here, but the Lovers is also a divine choice. And we're not excused from the consequences of these choices. And so there needs to be a certain level, I want to say, of soul recognition. This is the higher self guiding the path towards love, not from a place of ego, but from a place of alignment. And so this spread really does read like a sacred soul initiation, where the World and the Fool is part of your rebirth happening here. The Swords energy are showing the mental union. The Cups, the Wands here, they're kind of saying there is divine union manifesting, but you don't want to have this manifested from a place of longing. It has to be from a place of clarity, fulfillment, and you have to be spiritually ready to receive this. So let's break down the final oracle messages from the Enchanted Map deck today, because I do feel it kind of brings everything full circle. It's like, I want to say the final divine seal. So let's talk about it, because the Bone Collector, card 1, you are whole. There is a magician archetype quality. The number 1 is a direct reminder of your innate divinity and your capacity to create from presence rather than pain. Number 1 does signify new beginnings, individuality. I want to say self-leadership. And in context of today's Uranian gateway, this is a soul encoded message. You're not broken. You're not broken. You are complete. And so the Bone Collector card today is asking you, are you still trying to heal an old wound that has already closed? Are you unconsciously reenacting a karmic pattern because you've come to identify with that pattern as who you are? And so this is the cosmic mirror to the Queen of Light and the Hungry Ghost card. And so there's illuminated truth. There's this lingering scarcity that is surfacing. And the Bone Collector is saying you don't need to fix what isn't broken. You just need to remember who you are. And with Uranus and Gemini, and I do want to say Mercury square Lilith, you're being asked to update your mental programming. Stop telling yourself the old stories of being unworthy or not being chosen or being abandoned. You're being rewritten on a cellular level, and this is a reminder to consciously choose your beliefs. What you think you've lost is always within you. Your magic has only been sleeping on you. You just need to wake it up. So you are always going to be that magician of your own journey. So stop trying to heal and start choosing to live as though you are already whole, because you are. And then the bottom of the deck, we do have the Dragon's Lair. And so this is definitely connected to the North and South node, where the North node is connected to the dragon head. The tail is the South node. And so there's a final checkpoint here. There's protection here. There's a warning. There is a spiritual soul level test here before you can cross over into that next timeline. And so this dragon energy is both the guardian and the gatekeeper, I want to say. And because it is connected to karmic debt 19 and the Sun card, there is light here being filtered through the shadow. And so this card isn't blocking the feminine, but it's warning you. Do not romanticize red flags, okay? Don't do it. Just as Uranus enters Gemini and we rewire communication and connection and the twin flame archetype as a whole, we do have to burn away the illusions that are going to try to follow us forward, right? And we usually get tested the most right before we enter into a new cycle. And so there is this energy of... do not let this longing for a false twin or a karmic comfort or an emotional fantasy seduce you back into the survival timeline, the survival template. You do have to be mindful of illusions that are disguised as love. And I was just reminded of that recently, especially if a connection is going to pull you back into a scarcity mindset or trigger an old abandonment wound, or if you keep finding yourself in this energy loop of unreciprocated energy. Okay, I've found myself in that loop again recently, as I've recently put myself back out there. And so you do have to be mindful, because we're being shown the truth beneath any emotional longing. And just because these energies are intense at times, it doesn't mean that it's real. And the Dragon's Lair card, I feel, is reminding the Divine Feminine, if love is real, it will not ask you to betray your soul or betray your path or betray your mission. And you need to trust that you are always being watched over and warned at the same time. That this is, I want to say, like the dragon of discernment, which is reminding you some of these old stories are seductive because they are familiar, not because they're true. So please, whatever you do, do not chase a fantasy. Choose the path that will always nourish your evolution, not your ego. And so there is a final choice here with this powerful gateway. Do you want to keep continuing looping around the same wound, or do you want to remember your wholeness? Do you want to be pulled back into temptation through this longing, or do you want to choose the path of conscious creation? Because these two cards together represent divine feminine sovereignty, where you reclaim yourself and you protect your path. And so there is a major integration happening in today's astrology. There is an initiate of mental sovereignty. There is a cutting away of cords to mental addictions or physical addictions and suffering. And there's an invitation to open up to authentic love and that soul truth, where you empower yourself with acts of discernment. And so we are never here to fix what isn't broken, right? We're here to reclaim what was always within us. Your voice, your truth, your inner knowing. Let the ghosts of the past fall away, and let the dragon guard you, okay? Because I do feel the feminine collective is ready to walk forward, not wounded, but whole, and that is what I have today. So if you are ready to go further with me with a personal birth chart reading, a transit chart reading, a twin flame synastry chart reading, some coaching, or some mentorship, please feel free to check out my webpage link below. It will be pinned in the comments, and it will also be in the description box. If you're not quite ready to take that leap of faith, do feel free to check out the membership side of the channel, where I do go live every Thursday at noon for the members, and I do pull into all 12 zodiac signs if you are looking for zodiac sign specific messages. And that's the message for today, guys. Have a great day, and I will see you all again next time.